Hi guys, so your goals and getting your macros right. This is really, really important on your health and fitness journey. And remember with this, we want to make sure that we get your macro distributions, your calorie intake right, because we want to make sure that we build your engine. We want to make sure that we give you the fuel in order to make the metabolic changes that you want to make so we can get you firing on all cylinders. And we can get you firing on all cylinders. It means your performance is going to improve. It means your body shape is going to improve. It means you're going to feel tons better, loads more energy, and have heaps of energy for your family, your work, and for yourself as well. So it's a win-win situation all around, but we need to make sure that we get this right. So with understanding your macros, it's important to understand what your goal is. So your body composition objectives come down to three main things. They are fat loss, muscle gain, or maintenance, right? Maintenance within the first 6 weeks in particular. We want to make sure that we stick with maintenance. So it's important to understand a little bit around what actually makes up different cells in the body and why it's important that we know what our goals are. So fat tissue basically consists of adipose cells. So adipose cells are what we would look at as traditional fat cells, and their role in the body from a metabolical point of view is to act as an energy store. All right, it has many other roles, but within this context, it's more as an energy store that it performs as. And then we have muscle tissue. Now, muscle tissue is what we call musculoskeletal cells or musculoskeletal cells, and they are there to drive movement and metabolism. So they're two completely different types of cell in terms of how they're made up. If you think as one as an energy store or a fuel store and one as an engine, then you'll start to get a visualization about what I mean in terms of them being completely different. So changing your body composition, there's one predominant factor, and that is energy in versus energy out. All right. Now, there are different things that exist in terms of hormonal situations, or if guys have had surgeries and operations that might affect their body composition. But ultimately, it still always comes down to energy in versus energy out. Now, if you're looking for fat loss, it's obvious. You take less energy in than you expend, then you're going to lose weight, or you're going to create a calorie deficit. And that deficit will be taken from the fat stores, and you will therefore lose fat. If it's muscle gain, we're looking to take in more energy in than we expend. So in this way, we're going to create a surplus. So we add on to the body, so we then can create greater muscle tissue. And then obviously maintenance, we're looking for that equal of energy in versus energy out. We're looking to maintain. Now, our maintenance is our goal within our first 6 weeks. We don't want to be either building muscle too much, or we don't want to be losing fat too much. You'll find if you actually have an equal energy into energy out, you find you look more at maintaining, building your capacity, building your structures, that you will quite naturally start to shed some of that fat away that you want to get rid of, and you'll find that your muscles will tone an awful lot more as well, all right, in the first 6 weeks. And then after the first 6 weeks, then we can decide on which corridor we want to go down, whether it's going to be fat loss or whether it's going to be muscle gain, because it's important to understand that you can't have both. So for fat loss, we're looking to create an energy deficit. So really no more than about 15 to 20% of an energy deficit. So I've done an example below. So say your energy required is 2,500 calories for a day. You want to take, say, a 20% reduction off that, all right, in order to get your fat loss total. So you're looking for 2,000 calories a day. And I've just done the equation down here. 2,500 times 0.2 for 20% equals 500. Then you take that 500 off the 2,500 to end up at the 2,000 calorie mark. All right, this is just an example, guys. All right, we're just going to work this out in more detail as we go along. But this is just an example of how would you create a 15 to 20% energy deficit on your energy requirements. So muscle gain. So obviously for muscle gain, you're looking to create a surplus, but no more than about 5 to 10%. All right. So the energy required here, we're putting onto the body. So I've put 10% on top of that 2,500 calories in order to give you a 2,700 calorie goal. Now, why I say no more than 15 to 20% deficit for fat loss is if we take in less calories than this, then what you will find is you will find that you will start to slow the body's use of fat down, and it will start to use muscle as a store or as a provider of energy. So it will start to what we call go into a catabolic situation where it will start to break down the muscle tissue and use that for energy rather than the fat sources. So obviously the problem with that is that your metabolism reduces in size. You might think that you're having weight loss because you see the numbers coming down on the scale, but what you're not realizing is the composition, what makes up those numbers, and how muscle starts to break down. So when you start to eat at a normal rate, again, what you'll find is that you'll put more weight on, it'll be harder to lose because your metabolism has dropped down. So that's why we say within the Bulletproof Dad program, no more than 15 to 20% deficit, so we can maintain your metabolism, maintain your muscle mass while you're shedding away the weight. Guys, just to re-emphasize again, we're not doing this in the first 6 weeks. This is after the first 6 weeks. In the first 6 weeks, all we want to do is maintain and get the natural benefit of increasing your capacity before we go on to one of these two goals. Muscle gain. You want to create that surplus. Again, like I've said, no more than 5 to 10%. Why? Because we don't want to see fat stores start to really sort of go up and up and up. We want to create on top of the body. We know that it needs no more than 5 to 10% surplus in terms of what you're doing. So that's why we said 5 to 10% surplus, so you get the muscle growth without putting lots of fat on top of it. So your objectives. So number one, work out what you want to do. If you're in the first 6 weeks, definitely maintenance. After that, you can decide on what it is, whether it's going to be fat loss or muscle gain. So then what you need to do is you need to find out the amount of macronutrients that you need for you. Like I was giving you examples of these calories here about how we can work out this deficit and the surplus. But you need to know the calories that you need for you for what you're doing. So we call this a thing called TDEE, right? This is your total daily energy expenditure. And this is how we work out how many calories that you need a day. So there's 4 factors to TDEE. There's the BMR, which is your basal metabolic rate. That is your base rate. Okay, that's the amount that you need to for your heart to pump, for your lungs to go up and down, for your eyes to blink, for you to digest, for your brain to function. It's basal, it's basic. That's what we need, and it makes up around about 60% of your total calorie needs for the day. Then we go on to a thing called NEAT, which is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So this is the things that you do in the day that is not within your exercise routine. Walking, picking the kids up, moving around, driving, all these type of things, like me waving my hands around when I'm doing this presentation. All of that takes energy, and that adds on top of your basal metabolic rate. Then you've got your TEA, which is your exercise thermogenesis, okay? So this is the stuff that you will actually do within your session. This is the actual exercise routine, which actually takes up only about 10 to 15% of your total energy for the day, believe it or not. And then you've got your TEF, which is your thermogenic effect of food, all right? So you actually use energy consuming food because you need to break that down and then it needs to be distributed throughout the body. All of that takes energy. So your TDEE takes all of these things into account. It takes your activity level, it takes your NEAT score, it takes your thermogenic effect of food, it takes your exercise thermogenesis into account. And all of that spits out your TDEE, which is the daily energy expenditure, your total daily energy expenditure. So you must know what your objective is and what your TD is in order to work out what your macro requirements are. So what I've done here is I've actually put up 3 different sites that you can go to where you can actually work this out. So if I'm just going to come here and I'm just going to go to the top one, we're going to let that open up. So all I'm going to do in this one, for example, is I'm going to pop my age in. Okay, I'm going to pop my weight in. Then I'm going to pop my height in, which is 178. All right. Then I'm going to put my activity level in. So we can put our activity levels in here. I'm going to go for moderate, 3 to 5 days of exercise, working out. We do 3 days, obviously, of the WODs. We're going to put that in there as well. Now, body fat composition. In order to do this accurately, you either need calipers and that needs to be done by an exercise physiologist or a healthcare practitioner, or you need a thing called a DEXA scan. DEXA scan takes a full body composition and is scientifically done. Anything other than those two are going to give you false results, which are going to affect your reading. So I'm going to come on to this later about how we actually work this out without having the calipers or a DEXA. But for now, I'm just going to do the calculation. And then here, you'll start to see what your TDEE is. So I've got here my 2,662 per day, moderate activity. That gives me 18,635 calories per week. So if we come out of this and just come back to our presentation, top tips on this. These calculations can vary due to you adding your fat percentage. So to be safe, off that total fat percentage that I've just put, of that total calorie amount that I've just got through from that website, I would take 10% off those total calories to account for my fat, all right? So if it is a case that you're holding a bit of weight, you want to take about 10% off that total calorie amount. If you're really down to and you're really, really lean, then obviously you don't need to do that, all right? But that's the number one tip, because we want to base your TDEE on lean mass, not on the fat mass that's there as well, okay? So remember that all of these are only an estimate, all right? Your body is still your best yardstick. How you're operating, what your stats are like, so your measurements that you're putting through trainer eyes, your photographs that you take, and your weight measurements, and those internal measures, what we call your subjective measures, so how you're feeling, what your energy levels are like. These are all your best barometers. Remember, these guys are only providing you with estimates. You've got to be able to track your nutrition yourself in order to make sure that everything's working properly for you and adjust it where we need to. And also be accurate with the information that you provide. The more accurate you are, the more that you don't guess, the better results that you're going to get. And if your activity level reduces or goes up, then we need to just affect your calorie level as well, just to quantify with that. All right. What to do now that you have your TDEE. So now that you have your TDEE, you know your objective, you can work out your total calorie intake. So remember, you've got that 15 to 20% deficit for fat loss, you've got that 5 to 10%, for muscle gain, or for maintenance, you just want to keep it exactly the same. So take your TDEE calorie amount that you've got from the site, and then take that 10% off to equate for that the fat percentage, and then from there decide what your goal is, whether it's going to be fat loss or muscle gain, and then you're going to either take 15-20% off for fat loss, or you're going to add 5 to 10% for muscle gain. So you'll come out with your total macronutrient amount that you need. We've actually done a worksheet that is within our nutritional protocol that actually takes you through this so you can actually work this out. All right, and obviously if it's maintenance, we're just staying the same. We're just staying to that same TDEE score minus the 10% that we've got. All right, so warning, you can't cheat this, guys. Eating a greater calorie deficit will result in muscle wastage and lower your metabolism, and ultimately greater fat stores, mood swings, and a lack of energy and motivation, which ultimately result in failure. Eating more than your surplus will result in muscular growth, but also increase fat stores. So although you look bigger, you won't be able to see the muscle definition underneath. So stick with the recommendations. Don't go any more than this, okay? And just work your ass off in the gym. So your macro objectives. So now that you know your distribution, so now that you know your macro amounts, okay, the macros that you want to be eating. All right, let's say it's 2,500. What we've got to do is we've got to then look at your macro distribution. So within the Bulletproof Diet program, I recommend 40% carbohydrate, 35% protein, 25% fat. So you want to hit within 5% of your calorie goal, dependent on what your goal is. Remember, we always want to build your engine. And then number 3, you want to hit your protein requirements. So regardless of your goal, so it's maintaining or growing your muscle mass, it's essential to sustaining your metabolism. So you want to make sure you hit your protein goal. So number 1, you want to break down your calorie into 40% carb, 35% protein, 25% fat. You want to hit within 5% of your calorie goal every day, because we want to make sure that your engine really gets built really, really well. And you want to hit your protein requirement, because we want to make sure that metabolism stays really, really, really high. And protein is the building blocks for your musculoskeletal cells. All right. So below, we've looked at how you can work this out, guys. So your protein requirement, 35% of your total calorie amount. So in order to work that out, so that's 2,000 calories. As an example, if your calorie requirement was 2,000 as your TDEE, all you do is you times it by 0.35, which is going to equal 700. There's 700. Then you're going to divide that by 4, because that's how many grams is, how many calories there is per gram of protein. So it brings you out as 175 grams of protein for a 2,000 calorie TDEE. So your carbohydrate requirement is 40% of your total calorie amount. So behind that, I've just put that down here, how you would work that out. And then your fat requirement is 25%. And again, the calculation is down there, how to work that out. Now, the biggest thing with all this is not to worry. Please do not worry about this. All right. It's really going to be you're going to work this out as you go along. You've got the macro distribution sheet, which you're going to have, so you can actually work this out for yourself. We've also put in place, obviously, MyFitnessPal, where you're going to track these things, so we can then make the changes as we need to. And you also have the sample meal plans, where all this is done for you. All you've really got to do is work out what your TDE is, grab the meal plan, and then just hit the ground running with this, and then just track it all. All right, and you will go really, really well with it. All right, thanks, guys.